There are some families that don't need to raise their voices to destroy someone. They just shut the door, leave, and let the cold do the rest. A holiday meant for gratitude turns into a quiet kind of cruelty when the people who should stay choose comfort, instead dumping a dying stepfather in a dark, freezing house with nothing but a note that says, "We went on a cruise. You handle him." The pain isn't only the sickness or the shaking in the shadows. It's the betrayal, when family becomes the very thing that abandons you at the edge of life. Before we dive into today's story, let us know where you're tuning in from. It's always amazing to see where our stories travel. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next twist in this journey. Now, let's listen to him from the heart. I was supposed to be in San Diego until Friday. Another 4-day conference, this time with the West Coast partners who still didn't understand the concept of a deadline. But Thursday morning, halfway through my hotel breakfast, we got the call the campaign went through. Signed, done. Just like that, we were a full day ahead. Juno, my assistant, was the first to ask if I wanted to push the rest of my meetings up. I told her to cancel everything. No explanation. No alternate times. Just clear my calendar and book me the first flight back to Nashville. And I didn't tell Delaney. That was the whole point. For once, I didn't want to come home like a spreadsheet accounted for scheduled down to the minute anticipated. I wanted to show up and knock her off her feet. Surprise her like I used to. Maybe cook dinner. Maybe hold her from behind while she scrolled through job boards, tell her she didn't have to worry tonight. That we were still okay. Still us. I didn't even tell my parents. Or Kellen. Only Juno knew. And as I sat on that flight watching the Tennessee sun start to rise through the window, I let myself picture it. Her barefoot in the kitchen, eyes wide when the door opened. A gasp, then a laugh, then the kind of hug that felt like coming home. God, I missed her. 8 months of shouldering everything on my own had worn me thin, but I still clung to the idea that we could turn it around. She wasn't working, hadn't been since February, but I understood. Layoffs were brutal, and the market was cold. She kept saying she was networking, interviewing, getting closer. I told her to take her time. Told her not to feel like a burden. Because love, real love, is heavier than just money. You carry each other when it counts. So I carried her. Mortgage, insurance, groceries, credit cards, her gym membership, even her student loans when the deferment ended. But the real weight, it wasn't financial. It was silence. Delaney had grown quiet, short-tempered, distant. And I had to pretend I didn't notice. I didn't want to pile on pressure. I just wanted her to breathe, heal, come back to me. And yet, something didn't sit right. We used to talk about having kids Sunday mornings in bed, half awake, tossing around baby names and arguing over whether they'd have my jawline or her sarcasm. That dream faded fast once her layoff hit. It made sense we said we'd revisit the idea later. But lately I'd catch her turning her phone away mid-text. I'd ask about interviews and she'd deflect. If I brought up money, she'd snap. And every time I thought there's something more, I'd crush it with no, she's just stressed. She's trying. I'd even let Kellen become a fixture in our home. He was my college roommate, my best man. But over the past few months, he'd been over more than usual. Fixing the leaking faucet, hanging that damn bird feeder, driving Delaney to her dentist appointment when I was stuck in Atlanta. He texted me often, "When are you back?" Still out west, casual, friendly, but always oddly timed. And I always replied, because I didn't want to be the guy who assumed the worst about his best friend. But today, as I sat in the airport waiting to board, 2 texts lit up my screen. One from Delaney, greater than hey. "When are you flying back?" That was it. No heart. No kiss emoji. No miss you. She didn't wait for a reply. And one from Kellen. Greater than let me know when you're back. Something I've been meaning to talk to you about. Talk to me about what I stared at those messages, thumb hovering. I didn't answer either of them. Because I had a plan. I was coming home. And I was going to walk through that door and remind my wife who the hell I was. I was going to save this marriage. But somewhere deep in my gut, a strange thought crawled in. What if I didn't tell anyone, and someone's already waiting for me? The plane landed just before 5. I didn't rent a car, I wanted the moment to be simple, quiet mine. So I called a cab from the terminal and sat in the back seat, gripping the handle of my carry-on like it was going to fly away. As we turned into my neighborhood, Franklin, Tennessee, lined with dogwoods and flagstones and neighbors who wave at you even if they hate your politics, I felt it before I saw it. Something was wrong. There were too many cars. At least 7 of them parked up and down the curb, more than I'd ever seen on our street. I recognized my mom's SUV, my mother-in-law Marjorie's silver sedan. The rest were unfamiliar. Not co-workers, not close friends. Definitely not my people. Then I saw the house, our house, and the balloons. Blue and pink tied to the mailbox, the porch railing, even the damned dogwood tree in the front yard. Floating like it was somebody's birthday. Or... I followed the string of colors with my eyes, heart in my throat until they landed on the banner, "Welcome, our little miracle." I stopped breathing. No text, no missed calls, no invitation, no post-it on the fridge. Just this balloons guests a banner and me in a cab invisible. My first thought was so absurd I almost laughed. Delaney's throwing a baby shower, but for who it couldn't be hers. No. No way. If she was pregnant, I'd know. I'd feel it. She would have told me. Right. Unless she hadn't. I fumbled for my phone again. Still no messages, no missed calls. I checked the calendar. Nothing. I stepped out of the cab like my legs weren't mine. The driver popped the trunk, but I barely noticed. I dragged my suitcase up the sidewalk in silence. Our neighbors across the street were on their porch, smiling politely, sipping lemonade. One of them, old Mrs. Paxton, waved. I waved back. Like nothing was wrong. Music played from inside the house. Laughter spilled out through the front windows, Delaney's laugh. My mother's. Clinking glasses, a baby squeal sound effect from some party game. Every detail stung like a bee in my ribs. I crept toward the window. Inside, pastel gift boxes stacked high on the table. Tissue paper in soft colors. A cake shaped like a onesie. People hugging, chatting, toasting. I scanned the room, eyes darting. No sign of Delaney yet. No sign of who the baby was for. And then I saw it wedged between the Lexus and my mother-in-law's car, hidden behind our hedges. Kellen's truck. It hadn't moved in months. But it was here. Now. A sick chill ran down my back. I did the math in my head. I'd been gone 2 weeks. Before that, back and forth between cities. If Delaney was pregnant and showing this had been going on for months. But we hadn't been together in months. My hand curled around the house key in my pocket. I had 2 options. Turn away, check into a hotel. Call her later and demand answers over the phone. Or open the door. And let whatever this was knock me to the floor. I stepped onto the porch slowly. Like walking into a storm I couldn't see yet. My hand found the doorknob. Cold metal. Familiar weight. I'd come back to surprise her. But standing there, I had the distinct, unmistakable feeling that someone had been preparing a surprise of their own. I stepped through the front door like a ghost walking into someone else's life. The scent hit me first: vanilla cake, freshly brewed coffee, the cloying sweetness of celebration. Streamers crisscrossed the ceiling like spiderwebs spun by someone who'd forgotten whose home this was. A pastel mountain of baby gifts took over the dining table. There was music chatter and clinking glasses. But all of it felt muffled, like I was underwater. My eyes scanned the living room. Familiar faces packed into unfamiliar arrangements. Elaine, my mom, standing stiff near the fireplace. Marjorie, my mother-in-law, holding court with a glass of wine like she owned the place. Friends I hadn't seen in months, neighbors I never spoke to. No one noticed me at first. I wasn't supposed to be here. And then I saw her. Delaney. Sitting in my favorite armchair, the one I'd splurged on last fall, the one no one was allowed to eat, on the one I'd imagined we'd put in a nursery someday. She was glowing. Not metaphorically. Physically glowing under the string lights. Her belly was huge. 7, maybe 8 months, I couldn't tell. My brain refused to compute what my eyes were screaming. She was laughing. Until she saw me. Her laughter stopped like someone had yanked a plug. A gift box fell from her hands and thudded against the hardwood. Her mouth parted, but no sound came out. Her eyes darted, panicked. Then, like a sick joke, Kellen appeared beside her, kneeling, one hand on her knee, the other rested gently on her belly. My knees nearly buckled. Kellen's smile was soft and full of pride, the kind of smile you see on new dads showing off ultrasound pictures. He looked up, noticed me, and that smile collapsed into something unreadable. Not guilt, not shame, annoyance. Delaney finally found her voice. You weren't supposed to be back yet. It wasn't a question. It wasn't even an apology. It was irritation. I stood frozen in the doorway, my hand still clutching the keys I'd planned to jingle like some romantic idiot. I had flown across the country to surprise my wife. But the only person surprised was them. Someone behind me murmured, "Is that Oren?" And just like that, the whole room shifted. Glances turned sharp. Conversations died mid-sentence. Eyes landed on me like I was a stain on the carpet. Delaney stood slowly as if she were the victim here, as if I was the one crashing her event. Kellen moved to her side like a bodyguard. What is this? I asked, my voice too steady for what I felt. How long has this been going on? Delaney's lips trembled. Can we talk? Privately. No, I cut in. Right here. Now. Marjorie swooped in like a hawk. Oren, let's not do this in front of everyone. I ignored her. My eyes locked on Kellen. How long? Kellen opened his mouth. Closed it. Elaine took a step forward, but even she looked unsure who she was supposed to protect. I wanted to tell you, Delaney said. When I said, before or after the baby was born, her silence was answer enough. And then came the final gut punch. Marjorie folded her arms, cool and composed. We all knew this would hurt, but it was better that they told you once you were home. We all knew. My heart dropped like lead. I looked around again. Every person in that room had made a choice before I ever stepped through that door. They chose her. They chose Kellen, not me. You've been planning this, I said, using my travel schedule, my income, my house. We wanted to do this with care, Marjorie replied. Think of the baby Oren. He needs stability. I almost laughed. Stability. That's what this was about now. They weren't just stealing my wife, they were trying to make me believe I should thank them for it. Kellen finally spoke. You're angry. I get it. But this isn't about you anymore. And that's when something inside me snapped, not with rage, but with clarity. You're right, I said. It's not about me. I looked around once more. No one said a word. No one offered an apology. No one tried to stop what was already crashing down. So I smiled. Not wide, not kind, but with precision. I'll leave now, I said. But make no mistake, I'm not running. I'm repositioning. Delaney's brow furrowed. What does that mean? It means, I said, stepping back toward the door, you're all going to learn what it feels like to lose your safety net. And I left. No slamming doors. No shouting. Just silence and the sound of my suitcase wheels rolling across the concrete as I walked away from the life they thought they'd built on my back. The rain had started by the time I reached the end of the block. I didn't call a rideshare. I walked 2 intersections before hailing a cab. I didn't want any apps Delaney could track. I didn't want any receipts that led back to our shared inbox. Not anymore. The hotel I chose was downtown. Neutral. Quiet. Paid in full with a personal card Delaney didn't know I still used. The moment I stepped into the room, I dropped the suitcase and opened my laptop. No pacing, no shower, no drink, just action. Because this wasn't grief. This was war. I started with the financials. Joint checking I was primary. I drained it. Transferred everything to my private savings. Credit cards, I canceled the ones she had access to, especially the Amex she liked to use for networking lunches. Utilities, changed online passwords. Switched phone bill to my name alone. Set up 2-factor authentication to my personal number. Mortgage, still in my name. Good. retirement accounts, switched beneficiaries, removed Delaney, added my Aunt Celine, the only person left I trusted. Insurance scheduled removal of Delaney from health and life plans first thing Monday morning. Mail redirected all paper mail to a private P.O. box. Delaney wouldn't even know where to start looking. Then I called Mara Whitcomb, my lawyer. To her credit, she didn't sound surprised. "You have an hour tomorrow morning. I need it sooner. 6:30 a.m. My office, alone. I'll be there." After I hung up, I stared at the screen. I should have felt something, grief, betrayal, maybe even sadness. But all I felt was control, for the first time in 8 months, maybe longer. Then I went back through the bank records, and that's when I saw them. Small transactions at odd times, weekly meal deliveries, ride shares to neighborhoods we didn't live in, spa appointments, expensive ones, all charged while I was away. At first, I thought they might be hers, but the pattern was too smooth, too regular. This wasn't just someone keeping themselves busy while unemployed. This was someone maintaining a parallel life. I checked my phone. 12 messages from Delaney. 5 from Kellen. Delaney's voice notes started sweet, then pleading, then angry. "You're being childish. Don't do anything rash. Come home. We'll talk like adults." Kellen's were colder. "Let's meet. Man to man. I don't want this to get ugly." Ugly. It was already ugly. And then I remembered something. 3 weeks ago, Delaney had asked me, sweet as honey, when my next trip would be. She wanted to plan something nice. She had never done that before. I'd told her the exact dates of my San Diego conference, right down to the hour. That banner, those guests, that entire event. It had been built around my absence. Not a coincidence. A strategy. I closed the laptop. My fingers drummed the tabletop. I had just enough strength left for one final checklist. Change banking access, freeze credit lines, lock down legal documents, appoint new emergency contacts, sever health and financial ties, call the attorney, control the narrative. I stared out the rain-drenched window. Somewhere out there they were waiting for me to come crawling back, to beg for an explanation, to play the part of the broken man clinging to a lie. But they didn't understand who I was. I had spent 8 months carrying them, financing their delusions, shrinking my needs to fit inside someone else's idea of normal. That man, he was gone. I went to bed just before 3 a.m., slept with one eye open. But for the first time in years, my mind was crystal clear. Tomorrow they'd wake up thinking they still had leverage. By the time the sun set, they'd realize they were broke, and I was just getting started. Monday morning arrived with a gray, overcast sky and the kind of bone-deep chill that matched exactly how I felt walking into Whitcomb and Lawson. Mara Whitcomb looked up from her notes when I stepped in, her expression as steady and sharp as I remembered from our call. No hesitation, no pity, just precision. I handed her everything: bank statements, mortgage contracts, retirement docs, even screenshots from joint accounts. I laid it all on the table like a soldier emptying his gear before a war he didn't start but fully intended to finish. My goal's simple, I told her. I want out, clean, fast, and I don't want to be the ATM that funds their fairy tale. She didn't blink, just nodded. "You're not the first man to sit in that chair after a betrayal like this," she said. "But if you want to win, you don't bleed in front of them. You build quietly and strike surgically." That became the theme of my week. Before noon, I sat down with HR Cal Bennett, a man I barely nodded to in the past, now became a witness to the cold logistics of my marriage's collapse. I removed Delaney from my health insurance, changed the emergency contact, made sure every beneficiary form bore new ink Aunt Celine's name where Delaney's used to be. Every signature felt like snipping a wire on a ticking bomb. I wasn't just cutting ties. I was dismantling the network they thought they still controlled. Then came the security protocols. I met with building security to flag Delaney and anyone associated with her. I gave them descriptions, photos. If they showed up, they were to be escorted out. If they persisted, incident reports would be filed. I wanted a paper trail. I wanted leverage. That night, I got my first taste of their retaliation. Delaney started calling, not begging or crying. No, she called to accuse. You abandoned me, she snapped in a voicemail. You made me feel invisible for years. This isn't about Kellen. This is about you. It was almost impressive how fast she flipped the narrative. I expected guilt-tripping, but hearing her twist the story that I was somehow responsible for her betrayal was something else entirely. Then Marjorie joined the chorus. She left a message on my office line. What you're doing is unforgivable. That child has a future and you're killing it. Think about that son. She always called me son when she wanted me to fall in line. It didn't work this time. Mara and I met again Wednesday. As we reviewed paperwork, she paused, frowning. Have you ever received notifications about this policy being changed? What policy? She held up a homeowner's document, something with my name and address, but odd timestamps. It looks like someone tried to reroute your legal mail, possibly while you were traveling, if Delaney intercepted them. That sat like ice in my gut. It wasn't just emotional betrayal. They were playing chess with my identity, my legal standing. I wasn't just a jilted husband. I was a mark. On Thursday, Kellen decided to make it personal. He called Juno, my assistant, and tried to schedule a chat like we were still friends. Said he just wanted to talk man to man. When Juno refused, he showed up. Walked right into the lobby of my office building like he owned the place. Security caught him before he reached the elevators, but not before several employees saw him yelling my name. That was the moment I realized they weren't just desperate. They were losing control. Mara called later that afternoon. Papers are ready. We serve them tomorrow. I stood at my window watching the city pulse below. Delaney, Kellen, Marjorie. They weren't sorry, they weren't ashamed. They were strategizing, scrambling to protect their version of the truth. And that meant the next phase would be uglier. They thought they still had a safety net. They thought I'd hesitate because of that baby. They didn't realize I'd already cut the net. The call came at 10:17 a.m. Mara's voice was crisp. Service completed. She has the papers. I closed my laptop and exhaled slowly. This was it, the moment the story changed chapters. According to the process server, Delaney looked confused at first, even said it must be a mistake. Then she turned pale, clutched her stomach, and muttered something about needing to call me. She didn't wait long. By 10:21, my phone lit up with her name. I didn't answer. Messages followed. Voicemails. Voice notes. A roller coaster of denial, pleading, and subtle threats. You can't just disappear like this, Lachlan. This isn't who you are. Talk to me. I swear it didn't mean anything. You weren't here. I held the phone in my hand like it might burn me. But I didn't respond. Then came the shift. By early afternoon, my mother called. Her voice was trembly. Sweetheart, I know you're hurt, but maybe just talk to her once. For closure. Closure. As if this chapter hadn't been closed the second I walked in on them playing house in my living room. Marjorie, of course, didn't plead. She threatened. If you keep doing this, we'll have to tell people the truth. That you left a pregnant woman on the street. That wasn't the truth. But that didn't matter to her. What mattered was controlling the story. Meanwhile, I kept the momentum. I reviewed all autopay settings, froze any remaining shared accounts, redirected mortgage mail to a private P.O. box. Then I sat down and ran a deeper audit. That's when I saw it. A prescription charge dated nearly a year ago, prenatal vitamins purchased under Delaney's name. It didn't match the timeline she gave me. Not even close. I pulled the thread, found an appointment confirmation from the same month, then a maternity clothing order. She hadn't been a few months along when I caught them. She'd already been in deep. Which meant this wasn't a recent affair. It was a second life. The next day, I left the building late and found Kellen waiting near my car. He stepped out from behind a pillar like some dollar store villain. I'm not here to fight, he said, holding his hands up. Then get out of my way. He didn't move. I'll take care of her. But you need to stop making this ugly. I stared at him. Really stared. You slept with my wife. You lied to my face for months, and now you're asking me to keep it clean. He smiled. That smug, soft smile of a man who thinks charm is a defense. Come on, Locke. You're better than this. People talk. You don't want them thinking you're bitter. Security showed up before I had to say another word. They escorted him off the premises while I logged the incident. Another receipt for the growing file. Then came the final blow that day, my mom again, this time crying. They told me you'd cut the baby off, that you'd rather burn everything down than be decent. I sat in the dark of my apartment, heart pounding, listening to her sob. They weren't just weaponizing the baby. They were using my mother's heart as a crowbar. And that's when I knew. It wasn't about the money, or the house, or the lies. It was about control. Delaney and her army weren't grieving the loss of me, they were scrambling to keep what I gave them. My roof, my name, my paycheck. And they believed they could still guilt me into funding their future. I looked down at the house keys in my palm. They were living in a home that bore my name on every deed, my signature on every bill. I'd kept paying because I hadn't wanted to be cruel, because part of me still respected the idea of the home we once tried to build. But now I saw it for what it was. They'd turned my house into a stage for their lies. So I made a silent promise. If they wanted to keep playing family, they were going to have to start paying for it. The next move wouldn't be emotional. It would be real. It would be the house. It started with a single call. I dialed the mortgage company on a Wednesday morning, 6 weeks after the papers had landed in Delaney's hands. I'd waited long enough for them to scramble to scheme to hope I'd soften. I didn't. "Hi," I said. "This is Lachlan Mercer. I need a full payoff quote on the property at 314 Eastwood Lane. Yes, I'm the sole name on the deed. No, there's no co-owner. I'm preparing to sell." The woman on the other end was polite but curious. "Is this a primary residence?" "Not anymore," I said. By Friday I had the quote in hand and a call lined up with an agent, a woman named Mia Lawson, who specialized in quick-turn listings and wasn't afraid of messy dynamics. She met me that afternoon in the parking lot of a diner just off the interstate, tablet in hand, blazer pressed. "I read everything you sent," she said. "You're serious about moving fast, faster than they think I'm willing to." She didn't ask who they were. We drove by the house together. My old house. Our house. The one I'd bought, painted, repaired. The one I'd let her fill with cozy Pinterest dreams and soft lighting. Now it looked like a dollhouse someone had dragged through a swamp. The blinds were uneven. A pink baby stroller sat crooked on the porch. Dead plants flanked the steps like wilted sentinels. "I'll stage it," Mia said. "Simple, clean, neutral. We can get photos done in 48 hours. I'll file the MLS by Monday. With the market right now, you could be under contract before the end of the week. Do it." "What about the people currently living here?" I met her eyes. "They'll be informed through legal channels. No direct contact." "Understood." That evening I texted Mara to move forward with official notices. 30-day termination of residence in writing served legally. I also requested a clause allowing inspection access and scheduled a locksmith for the day after closing. By Sunday morning, the for sale sign stood planted like a sword in the front lawn. I didn't drive by again, but the messages started instantly. "Delaney, what are you doing? Are you serious? Then you can't do this. Locke, I live here, our baby. Then you piece of shit. You're actually doing this. You're sick." Then silence. Then Marjorie. "This isn't how family solves things. You're better than this." Then Elaine. "My own mother's sweetheart, please, this isn't the way. That baby needs a roof over its head." That's when I sent one line back to all of them through Mara. "I am not obligated to bankroll a betrayal." They could call it cold. I called it clean. And still they scrambled. Through a broker, Mara knew I found out they'd planned to stall the sale by claiming medical vulnerability, pregnancy, precarious timing, emotional appeals to delay the inevitable. They thought I'd blink. I didn't. Because on Tuesday I got the first voicemail that cracked the mask wide open. Delaney's voice frantic, strained. "You weren't even supposed to come home that day. Everything was timed. We had it under control. We had it under control." I replayed the message 3 times. The night I walked in on them, the banner, the cupcakes, the setup, it hadn't been a coincidence. It had been choreography, scripted right down to the lighting. My stomach turned, but my spine locked into place. That same afternoon, Mia called. Offers are already coming in. One's serious, all cash. Wants to close in 10 days. Let's move. I didn't expect the next call. Not from Delaney. Not from a hospital in Franklin. Not with a nurse saying, "Sir, we have a patient here, Delaney Mercer, who asked us to contact you. She's experiencing early labor complications. She says you're her emergency contact." I froze. She's what happened. The nurse kept it professional. Mild contractions, dehydration, possible early labor. She's alone. No partner listed present. Where's Kellen? She didn't say. I swallowed. Is the baby okay? It's too early to tell. I didn't go. I called Mara instead and told her to make sure the hospital knew I wasn't to be listed on any release forms or as a guardian. Then I sat in my apartment, lights off, blinds drawn, listening to another string of voicemails pile up. Delaney cried in the first. "He's gone, Locke. He's been gone for days. I haven't heard from him. I don't know what to do." The next was harsher. "You win." "Okay, is that what you wanted? You win. But there's a child involved now. Then one more, the quietest of all. He's drinking again. I thought he'd changed. He lied to me. I thought we'd have more time." There it was. Kellen, the charming jackass who stood in my house holding a baby onesie, had fallen back into old patterns, the ones Delaney thought she could fix. Or hide. It wasn't my problem. I didn't pick up the phone. I didn't send flowers. I didn't show up. That night I wrote a single sentence in my journal. Empathy is not the same as responsibility. I wasn't Stone. I wasn't cruel. But I wasn't theirs to save them anymore. The house sold on a rainy Thursday. The buyers signed at noon. I signed at 12:14. Wire transfer hit by 2:30. Mia texted a simple message. "It's done. Congrats." I transferred a portion to pay off the remainder of the mortgage. The rest slid into my savings, clean and untouched by anyone else's fingerprints. By Friday, movers were scheduled. A cleaning crew arrived before dawn. Delaney and whoever still lingered in that house had been served final notice days earlier. No extensions, no more grace. I didn't show up. I didn't need to. From Mara, I got updates. Boxes left behind. Stroller gone. Walls scuffed. Bathroom mirror cracked. They left the house like they'd lived in it, trying to make it feel theirs, but always failing. It wasn't home. Not to them. It was leverage. It was theater. And now it was someone else's. The divorce hearing came the following week in Williamson County. Delaney didn't show. Her attorney arrived with a statement citing complications from preterm birth and ICU stress recovery timelines, but no formal objection to the settlement. The judge reviewed, confirmed, and signed. Just like that, it was over. I walked out into the cold morning light, legal papers in one hand, phone in the other. I didn't call anyone, but an hour later I got a text from a colleague who still moved in our old friend circle. "Hey, thought you should know. Kellen interviewed at my cousin's firm last month. Didn't go well. Showed up late, reeked of whiskey. Blamed you for everything. Said you ruined his career. They laughed him out of the office. So much for the myth of the man she chose." Later that evening I got a message from Elaine. She didn't ask for anything. She just said, "I'm sorry." I thought staying neutral meant staying kind. I didn't realize neutrality has a cost too. I didn't ignore it. I replied, "I forgive you. But things won't be like before." She understood. That weekend I packed. A new city, a new apartment, a job promotion I'd accepted quietly a month earlier. Nashville in my rear view, Tennessee in my past. I stood at the gate at BNA 1 carry-on bag at my side, my left hand bare. No ring. No dent. I checked my phone once more. No new messages. No more fire to put out. The sky outside turned orange as the plane boarded. Somewhere Kellen was probably trying to charm his way into another job. Somewhere Delaney was likely realizing babies don't fix broken men. And I wasn't bitter. I wasn't waiting for karma to strike. I just was. Because when you stop being the net under someone's fall, they land exactly where they chose to leap from. And that isn't cruelty. That's gravity. My last thought as the plane lifted into the sky was simple. My peace doesn't depend on their collapse. It never did. There's a kind of peace that doesn't come with closure, it comes with clarity. I used to think justice meant watching the people who hurt me fall apart. But I've learned that real justice is when you stop making space for their weight in your life. It's when you stop checking over your shoulder, stop explaining your worth, stop fighting battles you never started. It's when your life no longer bends to make room for their chaos. I didn't get revenge. I didn't need to. What I got was distance, clean lines, a new city, a quiet apartment, mornings that don't start with dread. I got my name back, my dignity, my power. I used to sleep next to betrayal and call it love. Now I sleep alone, and I've never felt more at home in my own skin. And for anyone walking through something similar, wondering if it's heartless to draw a line, if it makes you the bad guy to finally say enough, let me tell you this. It is not cruelty to choose peace. It is not selfish to protect your spirit. You are allowed to leave the burning building even if they scream for you to come back inside. Especially if they do. I lost a marriage. I lost a version of my family. But I found something stronger. I found the version of myself that doesn't settle, that doesn't get manipulated with guilt, that doesn't confuse sacrifice with self-erasure. And maybe that's the real miracle. Not that they changed, but that I did, and I didn't need their permission to do it. Sometimes the hardest stories to hear are the ones we recognize too well. Somewhere in this story, a cold house, a note on the counter, a man left behind, maybe we saw a piece of ourselves. A moment we were overlooked, a time we were expected to carry more than our share, or someone we tried to protect until it nearly broke us. What lingers isn't the betrayal, it's the silence that followed it, and the strength it took to finally say no more. But even in the darkest chapters, there's something tender worth holding on to. Not the pain, not the anger. It's how we stood up not to win over anyone, but to stop losing ourselves. Forgiveness isn't always a reunion. Sometimes it's the quiet choice to move on without bitterness, to let people go without needing them to understand, and to start over wiser, steadier, more whole. If something in this story resonated with you, and if you feel like it, feel free to leave a few words in the comments. And if not, just know that you stayed with us till the end, and that on its own means something. We'll see each other again in another story. Until then, take gentle care. And if you'd like to be part of a space where stories are shared with open hearts, consider subscribing. We'll be right here.